Okay, so I didn't write a description for this live or anything, but I just uploaded a short um, where this guy was talking about Malcolm X and how Malcolm X was saying that we shouldn't vote for Democrats, that we should stop voting for Democrats, and that voting for Democrats ultimately means our demise. And if you continue to vote for the very people who claim to uh, care for you and claim to look out for you, but then never deliver through on their promises, then we're just as much as fault as the Democrats, right? The people in power in the White House, right? So after I watched that short, and if you want to see it, you can see it. It's uploaded on my channel. But it got my mind twirling after I saw it, right? Because at the time that Malcolm X made that deliverance, it was around the time when Democrats or Dixiecrats shifted parties, right? So a lot of people don't recall the time in history or don't remember the time in history when um, Democrats flipped to the Republican side, right? And then, and they were known as Dixiecrats. Dixiecrats were white Southerners and white Southerners who believed in slavery. So basically, Abraham Lincoln, being a Republican, was said to have, or so history wrote, that Lincoln freed slaves, right? Supposedly in 1865, right? So at the time, the socialists, the ones that believed in free labor and things like that, the ones that believed in slavery and wanted it to continue, right? Free labor, those were the Democrats, known as the Dixiecrats, right? And then somewhere around 1950 ish, uh, the Democrats, hence the Dixiecrats, switched over to the Republican Party, right? Um, and so when I watched that short with Malcolm X talking about that, that's who Malcolm X was talking about. He was talking about the Dixiecrats, which were the white Southerners who believed in slavery, right? Um, so now in present day, and that was like, the great shift that happened, right? So now in the present day of 2024, we have Democrats yet again switching over to the Republican side, right? And a lot of people was like, I never thought I'd see the day when that would happen, or because I even said like I never thought I'd see the day that I would vote Republican, or shit like that. Like I literally said that. Like I said, hell would have to be frozen over before I voted Republican or something like that, right? But I found myself in that situation. And so last year, around July 2023, I did a TikTok video and I titled the TikTok video The Great Shift. I should have put The Great Shift is Upon Us, but I put The Great Shift, right? And I put that TikTok video out. I even have it here on my YouTube channel. Um, and it's connected to a few of my videos. But I titled it The Great Shift because I felt last year in 2023 that Democrats were going to do the great shift of shifting over to the Republican side. I don't know. I felt it. I saw it. I smelt it, if you want to say that. And so here in 2024, you see the result of a lot of Democrats who shifted over to the Republican side yet again. So the great shift happened again. It happened back in the 1954. It's happening now in 2024. It happened in 2024, right? So it just got me thinking about a lot of shit, right, in regards to that. So after I saw that short with Malcolm X and him talking about how we should stop voting for Democrats because they always promise things but they never do anything for us and stuff like that, right? um, I believe he was talking about the Dixiecrats, which were the white Southerners who believed in slavery, right? And so, of course, they're not going to do anything. Of course, they're not going to do anything. They're not. Of course, they're not going to do anything. If they're white Southerners who believed in slavery, who believed in free labor, why would you think that they would do anything, right? So he was talking about the Dixiecrats. So now in 2024, Democrats are voting Republican, making a change to see what happens, right? So it got me to thinking, and as I was thinking, I ran across this article on Thurmond. Strom Thurmond. Do you guys know Strom Thurmond? He was a Republican governor in the state of South Carolina and the longest sitting Republican senator. The longest sitting Republican senator, uh, Strom Thurmond. And Strom Thurmond was a staunch pro segregationist. This man was completely what people would call racist, right? But you know what I find interesting about Strom Thurmond? Strom Thurmond had a biracial child named Essie Mae Williams. Essie Mae Williams. Essie Mae, my God, if that ain't a southern name, I don't know. Essie Mae. It reminds me of my grandma named Willie Mae. Child. Okay. My grandmama told me stories about Southern white guys being after her too, but that's another story. We ain't gonna get into that. But Essie Mae is the biracial child of Strom Thurmond, who was the longest sitting Republican senator in history. And he was a pro-segregationist, and he spoke against mixing of races, and he spoke against melanated people, which, you know, back then they called them Negro, which of course they were reclassified because they are American Indian, right? But he spoke against them. And so I found it interesting, y'all, because, you know, I got heated. I got real hot under the hoodie. I got hot because I said, so you can use your platform to speak against melanated people, American Indians, which they reclassified as Negro, which they reclassified as Black. Okay, so you can use your platform to speak racism into the atmosphere. But then behind the scenes, you go and you dip your pool stick, we'll call it, into the melanated PUSSY. Then you produce a biracial child, okay? You produce a biracial child. That's how much you was dipping your pool stick in the melanated PUSSY. But what I also find interesting is that Strom Thurmond's biracial daughter, she said that her and her father respected one another. She said that her mother brought her to meet her father, and that he said to her mother, "You have a fine daughter," right? So not acknowledging her as his daughter, but he said to her mother, "You have a fine daughter." She said, then Strom Thurmond proceeded to give her money, $200, which back then that was a lot. Essie Mae was born in 1925. And she found out about her whole family roots in 1938. But her father proceeded to give her her money. And her father also put her through school, allowed her to go to, you know, put her through college, which is where she met her husband, who became an attorney. And she said throughout her life, she continued to be in her father's life. Now, this is Strom Thurmond, Republican senator, longest sitting Republican senator who is pro-segregationist, who was against race mix. And she said all the other senators, they knew who she was. They knew she was his biracial daughter. But Strom Thurmond never acknowledged her publicly. It was all behind the scenes. And she said her and her father respected each other very much. And he continued to support her and take care of her financially, and even sent her kids money, his grandkids, sent her kids money. He took care of his daughter and took care of his daughter's kids, his grandkids. She said she sent her father a card, a Father's Day card. And she said Strom Thurmond replied to her and said, "Thank you for your kind remembrance of me on Father's Day." So it really made me look at Strom Thurmond in a completely different light, right? And it actually softened my heart towards him, because I used to look at him as just this staunch racist, right? But how much of a racist can you be if you have a biracial child with an American Indian woman, and then you continue to take care of that child all through her life, and you acknowledge that child, not publicly, but behind the scenes, where your colleagues even knew who she was. And then she went on to get married and have her own kids, and you still sent money to her kids, his grandkids, even though he never publicly acknowledged her. That to me does not speak of a person with a racist heart, even though that is what he projected on his platform. She said her dad respected her and she respected him. So that made me think, y'all, that maybe Strom Thurmond used his platform to preach racism and segregation and all of that stuff, because that's the climate in which he was born and raised in. And maybe that's what he felt he had to do in order to survive. Because back in those days, baby, because let's think about it. Essie Mae was born in 1925, which means Strom Thurmond was born in the 1800s, okay? And as we know, slavery was abolished in 1865, okay? So, so maybe he wasn't racist. Maybe the climate in which he grew up in made him take the positions that he took. And he felt that was the only way for his survival. Because back in those days, in the 1800s, in the early 1920s, if you were on the side of the melanated person, if you were on the side of the American Indian, you were labeled as a nigger lover. You were labeled as the other. And they treated you as such, right? They automatically said, okay, you're not white. You're the other. You're the other. And so they treated you as that way, right? So I'm thinking that Strom Thurmond took that stance because he felt he had to. Because he felt he had to. And then that took me to the Pope, y'all. It took me to the Pope. So my brain went that way. Then it went to the Pope. You know why I went to the Pope? Not the current Pope. Not the current Pope, y'all. It took me to Pope Benedict, the Pope before the Pope that's in now. Because right now, Pope Francis is in. Pope Francis took over for Pope Benedict, right? So it took me to the Popedom. And the reason why it took me to the Popedom, or took me to Pope Benedict, I should say, is because Pope Benedict used his platform to also speak against homosexuality. He was staunchly against homosexuality. He preached against the LGBTQ crowd. He preached against it. He said it is an abomination, blasphemy, and you will not, you should not be for it, right? Pope Benedict used his platform to speak against homosexuality, but Pope Benedict had to step down from his popedom. It was the first time a pope ever stepped down in the history of popedom. But do you know why Pope Benedict stepped down? Pope Benedict had to step down because he was caught with his gay lover, his gay, young Italian lover. So after it was discovered that Pope Benedict, the same Pope Benedict that used his platform to speak against homosexuality, once it was discovered that he himself had a whole boyfriend, a young Italian dark-haired lover, and I remember seeing him too, right next to Pope Benedict's side, I sure do. They probably wiped the internet clean of all pictures of Pope Benedict. They probably did. But if they left a few out there in the internet stratosphere, y'all should Google and see. If you see a young Italian dark-haired male next to Pope Benedict, that was his boo. And I only know it's because I wrote on it. I blogged on it. Yes, I did. I blogged on it at ahoodtalks.com. Yes, I did. Yes, I did. Because this was back in 2012. It was back in 2012. I blogged on it because I said, isn't this fascinating? I blogged on it because my mind was completely like, I was like, are you kidding me right now? Are you kidding me? This man, Pope Benedict, who used his platform to speak staunchly against homosexuality, now he has to step down because he was caught with his gay lover. And so Pope Francis had to come in and save the day so that, the public wouldn't, see certain things, to kind of schmooze it over so that, people would forget what really happened. But I ain't forget, baby, because I was there when it happened and I blogged on it. So, yeah, so my mind went there after thinking about Strom Thurmond and his biracial child and how he used his platform to speak against interracial mixing, right? But he had a whole biracial daughter. So again, it's like the same thing with Strom Thurmond, the same thing with Pope Benedict. They speak against what it seems like they're for. And if that's the case, whose game are we playing? Whose game are we playing? Because there is clearly a game being played. Because if Strom Thurmond really wasn't racist, even though he preached it, but he still dipped his pool stick in that melanated punani that produced a biracial child that he took care of all her life and her kids, whose game are we playing? If Pope Benedict used his platform to speak staunchly against homosexuality, even though he had his Italian, young, dark-haired lover that he got caught with, so he had to step down, whose game are we playing? It's a game. It's a game. It's literally a game. It's a game. It's a game being used to pull the strings in people's minds like a puppet, to make them look this way and make them look that way and make them look up and look down and all around and cause all kind of confusion and division when these motherfuckers don't even believe what they preaching. They don't even believe it because they do the opposite of what they say they for. I read a long time ago about, how, they have those slave books or whatever, and, they'll have like different sayings from different slave masters and things like that, right? And so I read that certain slave masters said they preferred to have sex with melanated women because melanated women were more passionate or more soulful or more, whatever. So they said that's what made them, desire to be, blah, 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 whatever. That's just what I read, okay? And so I thought that was interesting. So I guess that's what made them go on down to the slave quarters and have numerous relations, that produce numerous biracial kids, which of course that was mixing the race anyway, right? Race mixing. That was done on purpose anyway. But clearly it was also done because they got pleasure out of doing it, right? And then my mind twirled again, y'all, and it twirled over to Arnold Schwarzenegger, the former governor of the state of California. And my mind twirled there because Arnold Schwarzenegger had a whole love child with a Hispanic woman that was his maid for 20 years. Believe her name was Consuela, if I'm not mistaken. Now, Arnold Schwarzenegger was married to a white woman Kennedy. She was married to a Kennedy. Maria? No. Her name wasn't Maria. What's his wife first name? I forget her first name, but I know Arnold Schwarzenegger was married to a Kennedy. Okay, forgive me, I forget her first name. Was this crazy because I actually saw her. Was it in Malibu? I think I drove up right next to her, or we were right across from each other. Anyway, I saw her. The Kennedy that Arnold Schwarzenegger used to be married to. Marie Shriver. What the hell is her first name? Shriver. I saw her in Malibu anyway. Or was it No, it was Santa Monica. I was walking down the street and she was stopped at the light. And I was like, hey, that's Shriver. Hey, that's the Kennedy. Or whatever. And I was like, hey, or whatever. So I actually saw her in person. But anyway, yeah, he was married. Arnold Schwarzenegger was married to a Kennedy, but he had a maid of 20 years, Consuela, who he had a whole love child with. A whole love child. Now, I'm not saying that he didn't love his wife, you know what I'm saying? But I'm saying, you had a whole relationship on the low. Now, I don't know if Shriver knew that about him and she just kind of didn't say nothing because it was on the low. But all I know is that when that news broke, that broke their marriage. Because I think she kind of felt like, well, if I stay with him, But, a lot of women stay with men who cheat. You know what I mean? Hillary Clinton stayed with Bill Clinton. I think that's more of like a business arrangement, though. Like keep the money in the family, keep the power in the family, just keep the legacy or whatever, some shit like that. So whether you're happy or not, you know what I mean? You can be miserable as hell, but it's just like, for the power and the money or whatever. But Shriver was pretty hurt. I remember when all of that broke, she was pretty hurt. And so that split her and Arnold Schwarzenegger up. But, like I said, my mind just twirled to that because it's like, I'm not saying Arnold Schwarzenegger is a racist or anything. I know he was a staunch Republican for a long time. And what's interesting is that Arnold Schwarzenegger, who's been a staunch Republican for so many years, he turned Democrat. He endorsed Kamala Harris. A lot of people who were staunch Republicans endorsed Kamala Harris. And I thought that was awfully interesting. I said, Arnold Schwarzenegger endorsed Kamala? And he's been pro-Republican forever. So as I saw certain Republicans switching to Democrats and staunch Republicans switching to the Democratic side and endorsing Kamala Harris, I laughed to myself because I said, do they not realize how much they are blowing their own cover? Do they not realize that they are really showing and telling what they're really for? Do they not realize? Now, I guess it wouldn't be so obvious to those who just don't know, who don't know history, who let things kind of just go over their head, right? Who just are asleep to historical facts, right? But when I saw Arnold Schwarzenegger endorse Kamala Harris, I said, wow, he just really showed and tell. Show and tell, just the game I play. It's a game. It is a game that is being played. A game. An interesting game, nonetheless. But you cannot tell me that a lot of people who claim to be racist really are racist. I believe that there are some people who are really racist simply because they were conditioned that way and they believe it. However, I believe that there are some people who claim to be racist who really are not racist. I believe they just say that to save face, to not be looked at as the other, to not be mocked and talked about and picked on. I think that there are some people, and I'll say white people, I believe there are some white people who love all people, right? I do believe that. But I believe that there are some white people who are born into racist families that feel they have to portray what they were born into, or else they'll be casted away, casted aside, disowned, or cut off from an inheritance, or, things like that. It's almost like they feel like they have to stay with the status quo, or it means trouble for them. I believe that was the case with Strom Thurmond. I believe that was the case with Strom Thurmond. The man who is known as a staunch segregationist. As a matter of fact, there are articles about his biracial daughter, Essie titled The Pro-Segregationist Daughter. But her story about him says the complete opposite. And all I could think to myself was, wow, to be a fly on the wall during their conversations. To be a fly on the wall. So like I said, it softened my heart towards Strom Thurmond. It softened my heart because I used to look at him as a staunch racist. But these stories about his biracial daughter and the words she spoke about him says something completely different. Completely different. So again, I believe it's a game that's being played. And I believe it's a game that's being played in order to keep the whole divide and conquer thing going, in order for certain people to acquire and attain and maintain power and control, clearly, right? It sucks, that it's a game. It really does suck because, as Dr. Frances Cress Welsing said, she said she had a whole room full of mixed race people. And she said that what if a law was passed that said that there could be no more interracial mixing? There could be no, your race had to stay with your race. These race had to stay with race, but no more interracial mixing. She said the white men stood up so fast and said, no, 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 no. No, 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 no. No. That's how much white men like melanated ass. Just keeping it real. I said this in a TikTok video too, when I was talking about BET demographics, right? Because I was talking about what happened to the BET Awards. I remember I used to watch the BET Awards and it was, it was more classy, more graceful. And now it's just full on Magic City, right? So I was just talking about the difference, right? And I said, well, where did the turn happen, right? And then I noticed that the turn happened when the melanated man that owned BET sold it to a white man, right? And then the changes started happening where, melanated women started showing their ass more, started, twerking more, started doing, pornographic things on stage and things. And so I said, you know what? I think it's because white men like melanated ass and they want to see it. Okay. They like porn. They want to see it. They want to see it jiggle. They want to see it shake. They want to see it drop like it's hot. They want to touch it. I remember Fantasia was on stage singing, right? And she was gyrating and doing all this stuff. And this white man was in the front row and he was just like, and she reached out and grabbed his head and shook it around. And he was just like, take me, damn it. I'm risking it all for you, Fantasia. Just take me how I am. That man was engrossed in Fantasia Punani because his face was literally right next. So anyway, I say all that to say that it's a game being played in these streets. It's a game. Some people take the game more serious than others, okay? Some do. I'm not going to say that there aren't real racists out here. I know that there are real racists out here, but there are some people that are racist, like the people in the hierarchy, the higher places in the White House and stuff, who ain't really racist, y'all. They just playing the game. just like the Pope Benedict, who had to step down, even though he spoke against homosexuality and he had a whole boyfriend, okay? But he spoke to the public against homosexuality. It's a game. It's a game being played. And now you have the current Pope, Francis, who is advocating staunchly for LGBTQ rights and advocating staunchly for all the popes to be able to marry same-sex loving couples. Now, is Pope Francis doing that in order to schmooze things over because of the Pope that he had to come in and schmooze things over for? To not make it look so bad on Pope Benedict's popedom history? I'm trying to understand, because you know the ones that are staunchly against Pope Francis in regards to marrying same-sex couples is the Catholic, the melanated Catholic priests. I think they're African, if I'm not mistaken. The melanated African Catholic priests will not do it. They will not listen to Pope Francis in marrying same-sex couples. They said no. Marriage is between a man and a woman. They will not do it. It's almost as if they feel like if they do it, it's almost like they know something. Like they know something, like a hardcore core truth. Like they know and deep down in their soul that they're not supposed to do it. Because I mean, hard no. And and most people, they go on with what the Pope say because it's the Pope, right? The Pope say it's okay. So why not? Them African Catholic priests? He cannot get them to budge on that. And I don't think they ever will. I don't think they ever will. So all of this came from that one short about Malcolm X talking about voting for Democrats. All of what I just spoke about came from that one. And that's usually how my mind works anyway, y'all. One thing will lead me to 2, to 3, to 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's like a whole maze thing that happens. That's what led me to Nietzsche. It was like a boom, 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 boom. Like that's how I don't know. I guess that's how my brain works, whatever. But it's interesting because I learn a lot. And I find fascinating things in everything I learn. And when I learn it, I feel that it's good to share what I learned because, y'all might not know. And if you do know, maybe I just gave you new eyes. Maybe I awakened you to something that you didn't know. Or maybe I awakened you to an aspect of it that you never saw before. You know what I mean? And so, it's interesting. It's interesting. Also, I'm gonna end on this. So I was speaking to a coworker yesterday, right? And we were talking, and she was talking about some of the issues that I was having with my current manager, right? And everything that has been transpiring, on my job or whatever, which I've documented a lot of that in video. If you want to see it, you would have to just go through my video footage and you'll be able to see it. And make sure you subscribe to the channel too, y'all. Subscribe to All Baddies Got a Story because I usually go live daily. This is my second time going live. Sometimes I surprise myself. And I always, upload new content. Check out my other featured channels on this page. They're all my channels. If you like what you see, subscribe. Also have a podcast with almost 300 episodes. Click the link, subscribe to the pod. Also have a couple of episodes from my podcast and my podcast folder. It has red lips and a book. It's my podcast, a couple of episodes in there. If you like what you hear, go on ahead, click the link in the profile button that leads to my podcast. Subscribe, and check out all my other spaces with my links in the profile. Okay, so anyway, I digress. I was talking to my coworker the other day, and we were talking about some of the issues that I was going through with my manager, whatever. And she was like, Shanda, do you know where all of this stuff even came from? And I said, what? She was like, because you didn't want to give up your Fridays off, right? So it was interesting that she was, oh, wait a minute. So it was interesting that she was even saying like it was funny to me because she was saying it to me like I didn't know. Number one, and so I was like, okay, you know, and she was like, yes, because you didn't want to give up your Fridays off, and everything blew up. And I said, you know, yeah. I mean, I think it goes deeper than that, but I was just like, yeah, or whatever. And then, you know, she proceeded to say, you know, we wish you would have just came to us and spoke to us about the issues you were having with him, and we could have kind of warned you and stuff like that. And I said to her, I said, well, why would I come to my coworkers and talk to y'all about the issues I have with the manager? I said, if I have an issue with the manager, I'm going to bring it straight to the manager. Why would I bring it straight? Why would I bring it to y'all? She's like, oh no, because we know how he operates and we know how he is. And I was like, oh, well, how is he? How does he operate? And she was like, well, you know how he took all your hours away or whatever like that, and you didn't do anything wrong. And I was like, yeah. She's like, well, that happened to me too. And I said, it happened to you? She said, yeah, a long time ago, he took my hours away, whatever. And I was like, okay, and how did you handle that situation? She said, oh, I just didn't say anything. And I said, oh, you didn't say anything? She said, no. She said, but like 2 weeks later, he gave me my hours back, so everything was okay. And I was like, okay. I said, but you didn't, I said, but did you like that he took your hours away? She said, no. I said, and you didn't say anything? And she said, no. And I said, so, okay. So she said, it happened to her, but she didn't say anything. So the only difference between me and her is that when it happened to me, I said something immediately. I spoke up. I wasn't going to wait I wasn't going to wait for weeks to go by for me not having no hours. That's my livelihood, right? I take that as you're playing with my livelihood, right? So if you're playing with my livelihood and you know I didn't do anything wrong, then that means something has to be done about that, right? And if I can't get what I need out of you, the person that did it to me, right? Then that means I got to go above your head to figure out what we can do to make this change, right? Which is what I did. And so that change was made and I got my hours back, right? But I had to talk to the regional manager in order to do it, right? But I got my hours back, right? So, but she said she didn't say anything. She just let it slide. And so honestly, that to me is like enabling. She was being an enabler. Her and whoever else it's happened to, right? They were being an enabler. They enabled him to be able to treat them that way. Because if you're not going to speak up about something that was done to you that was not fair, not just, and you're just going to keep your mouth closed about it, then that's letting that person know that did that to you, that it's okay that he did that to you, even though you didn't like it. So, and so basically she was saying that I should have came and spoke to my other coworkers about what he did to me, because then they would have said, oh, he did that to us too. And, you know, he gets that way sometimes when he gets angry or mood and all that stuff like that. No, that's not fair. That's not right. Why do I have to suffer because you angry or moody or you want to play a game with somebody's livelihood? Why do I gotta suffer? That don't make sense to me. I'm not going to be an enabler. I'm not going to do it. So, and then, you know, she proceeded to go on and say, you know, a lot of people were mad at me, or other coworkers were mad because when I spoke up, it made a lot of stuff within the environment shift around, right? So basically the regional manager came and he was made aware of some things or a lot of things, right? Which shifted a lot of people's living situations and shifted a lot of people's stuff, right? Which clearly that had nothing to do with me, number one. And number two, I had no idea that all of that shifting was going to happen because I decided to defend myself. And I told her, I was like, this was something that personally happened to me. And I was speaking up, talking about my situation. I wasn't talking about anybody else's situation but my own. I said, I don't mind nobody's business. I mind my own business. You know what I mean? I said, so I was defending myself. And she was like, no, I understand, you know, and I completely agree with you. We just wish you would have came to us and spoke to us about it. I said, I'm not going to do that. It's not nobody's business. It's nobody's business. I'm going to take it up with who I got the problem with. I didn't have no problem with y'all, so I'm going to take, you know. So then she started um, saying something about, I was talking about colorism, and saying that, you know, some of the coworkers were against me because of colorism. I'm not sure if she said the management or whatever. I'm not sure if she said the management. I think she was just talking about coworkers, my coworkers, saying that, you know, I was speaking on colorism and things like that, and using, I don't know. So I don't know. In this one instance, I clearly understood that she probably spoke with like the manager or whatever, because what she said to me was something that I had only said to the manager. So clearly the manager said something to her to make her address me, or something like that. And if it wasn't the manager, I don't know. But there's a lot of talking. There's a lot of talking, a lot of gossiping, a lot of talking in that environment. But when she spoke about colorism, and she was like, girl, you know, we're all melanated here, so there's no way that there can be colorism going on. And what I wanted to say about that is that it doesn't matter if we're all melanated in the same environment. Colorism can happen amongst people who are of the same color or the same race, or it can absolutely happen, right? As a matter of fact, I don't know if y'all know the YouTuber I Am Marwa. Excuse me, I Am Marwa. Marwa has a YouTube episode where he traveled to Mexico, right? But he specifically traveled to Mexico because he was looking for, as he called them, Black Mexicans, right? Which are just a darker melanated, a darker complexioned Mexican, right? And the reason why he said he was looking for a Black Mexican is because he said, where are they? He said, where are they? I know they exist. He was planning on documenting the different countries that he went to see where the darker race was, because he said he knew they existed. So Marwa did his due diligence in research, and he found the Black Mexicans. There's an episode of it. I think there's like 2 or 3 episodes, because he stayed a little over time, so he did like multiple videos. And it's like you have to get to where they are by boat. Like you have to, like you go to Mexico, but then you have to like take a ferry to get to some place, and then you gotta take a small canoe to get to. I said, damn. I said, they hidden. They are hidden. The Black Mexicans are hidden. And he said he believed that they are hidden because of colorism. Okay? Because lighter skinned Mexicans are racist against darker skinned Mexicans. Okay? Okay? It's the same thing in, where else did he find? It was another country where that happened. But anyway, getting back to that point. So colorism. So when she said colorism can't exist between, you know, melanated people because we're melanated, that's not true. That's not true. Light-skinned Hispanic, even Cardi B. Rapper Cardi B made a huge fuss. I think she was in the Dominican Republic visiting or something like that. And she was talking about how, like, she just blew up and was like, oh, this is fucked up. How do you know the light-skinned Dominicans are racist against the dark-skinned Dominicans? I don't know if Cardi B is Dominican or Puerto Rican. I don't know what part of the Hispanic culture she is. I don't remember. But I know she had a bitch fit over the fact that light-skinned Dominicans were being racist against darker-skinned Dominicans. And so, yeah, it's everywhere. Even in Los Angeles, man, even in Los Angeles, there were, you know, some government officials who made the newspaper, who made the actual news. Was it this year or last year? They made the actual news because it was a recording, a secret recording that was leaked out purposely, obviously. It was a leaked recording where some government officials in Los Angeles were talking about, quote unquote, Black, quote unquote, African American, American Indian people. And they were saying really, really racist things. And these were Hispanic government officials. They were saying really, really, really racist things. I mean, I've encountered some lighter skinned Hispanics who treat me kind of like how a racist white person would. So, so it definitely exists. It definitely exists, and it's and other races too. What's interesting is there'll be other races of people who are darker than me, who will treat me like they're lighter than me. It's like, you know, you're darker than me, right? You know, but you know, some of them are usually from foreign lands, from somewhere else, and then when they come here, you know, they adopt the, you know, racist mentality against American Indians, and there you have it. I was even told, there's even video on YouTube where some folks who migrated from other countries, they said that when they come to America, one of the first things that they are taught is to hate American Indians, quote unquote, Black people. They said that's one of the first things that they're taught to do when they come to this country. That they, you know, they talk bad about us, that they say that we're like dumb, like they talk about us like we're inferior, basically, and so they should treat us as such because of how we're talked about. But you have to wonder why so much effort. I don't wonder, I know. But for some, I'm pretty sure they wonder why so much effort is put into, you know, dehumanizing American Indians, you know? And like, you really do have to stop to wonder about that. It was this one Asian lady, East Indian Asian lady, who I also did a video on, who was very upset about it. Actually, she said, you know, she's also taught to treat, quote unquote, Black people, American Indian people, as if they're inferior. And she said, and it really bothered her that, you know, she was being taught this or being conditioned this. She said, because I know my history and I know the truth. And she's only 19 years old. She said, what they're doing is wrong and it's not right. And we need to preach against it and stop it. She said, because she said, she said American Indians, she said the Indian race is the first race. She said, and it's the human race. She said, that's where humanity resides. And if you get rid of that, then you have no more humanity. And I was like, 19 years old. This young lady said this. And so I did a video on it because it affected me so much that I felt like I should share the video with you guys. She was actually speaking to Ivy Anita. Ivy Anita is a Nigerian YouTuber, and she speaks a lot on race and, you know, colorism and classism. And, you know, she speaks a lot on a lot of the issues in our society, whether it be America or globally, right? And so she personally spoke to this young lady. And after listening to that young lady, I said, oh, I got to tell the people on my page about this. So I posted the link to it. I titled it Blackness Gave Life to Non-Blackness, because that was the exact words that East Indian Asian young lady used. So I used that as the title of my video. So if you want to go check that out, you can check it out. And the link to the young lady speaking is in the description box below. So I'm going to end on that, y'all. Like I said, that one short just had my just twirled my whole brain around, and I went from Strom Thurmond to Pope Benedict to Arnold Schwarzenegger to speaking to my coworker and her talking about colorism and all that stuff. And, you know, I've had a lot of experiences with a lot of different people, you know, whether it be in a workplace or in school. I have to say my school environments have been pretty okay. Some of my work environments is where I received a lot of, you know, either discrimination or, you know, a lot of jealousy, envy, or, and colorism. You know, I mean, it is what it is. It is what it is, you know? Um, like my grandmother, my father's mother, is part Mexican, but a person would look at me and not think that, or maybe they would. A lot of people think I'm from the islands, which clearly I am. My family is, or whatever. But like, uh, like my coworker said to me one time, you know, you're not Latina, you're not Latina, right? And so, you know, and I had clearly told her, I was like, well, you know, my grandma's, you know, part Mexican and da da da. Her dad's full Mexican, and she still looked at me and was like, "You're not Latina." Like it was like she was dividing me from everybody else. And I don't know if she was, you know, saying it like that because she felt like, you know, my Spanish wasn't as fluent as theirs, which it used to be. But I'm not sure if she was saying it because my Spanish wasn't as fluent, even though I understand a lot and I definitely read it. I definitely understand it in writing, right? Escribe. But but the way she said it, you know, what was interesting though is that she told me that she saw the Latina in me through my eyes. She said, "Yeah, look at your eyes. I see the Latina," right? But then, you know, one day she just looked at me and was like, "You're not Latina. You're not Latina," right? And I'm not trying to pretend to be anything, right? I can only be who I am. And I can't help that my grandma is part Mexican, right? So, you know, I mean, this is the same grandmother whose house I would go to, and all she played was Spanish music. All she played was Spanish music, and would have me and my cousin Jamila, you know, dancing salsa and bachata. Yes, my grandmother, Patricia Princess Armstrong, mi abuela. So it made me think of Selena and how, you know, it's like, would a person disregard Selena Quintanilla Perez? Would someone disregard Selena because her first language was English? Would you say that she's not Latina because her first language was English and she didn't know a lick of Spanish, but she had to learn it? She said she learned it in order to connect with her people. That's why she learned Spanish, to connect with her people. But her first language was English, Inglés. That's what she was born into, Inglés, not Espanol. And she learned it. But would you think of Selena any less because she didn't speak Spanish? Would you look at her and say, "You're not Latina," because she didn't speak Spanish? Do you know what I'm saying? So it's and I love Selena. Love Selena. Love Selena. I was a little girl when she was killed. And I just remember because I was a faithful watcher of Univision. Faithful watcher. So I would like come home from school and I would just go to Univision. And it's a completely Spanish speaking channel, right? But I think is, you know, like I said, I was raised up in it. Like I go to my grandma's house, that's all you would listen to Spanish music. So, you know, it was a part of me naturally. So I just remember, you know, seeing the breaking news of Selena getting shot, and I was a little girl, and that just like wrecked my whole world. It wrecked my whole world. And I always said that I was, I'm gonna go to Corpus Christi and visit her grave. I'm gonna go to Corpus Christi and visit her grave. And want to go to Corpus Christi and visit her grave because I was a crazy Selena fan. I'm still a Selena fan. So yeah. But anyway, so I say all that to say that there are a lot of games being played in our government. A lot of games being played where people are for certain things that they're really not. And it's interesting because it's like you don't even know who to believe anymore when it comes to politics. It's like, you know, it's almost like people say things to get you to believe a certain way, but then behind the scenes they flip the script and they really are doing the opposite. And as far as colorism, it absolutely exists. It doesn't matter if you're in a room full of melanated people. There's somebody that's going to be in there that thinks that they're better than you because their skin is a little lighter. And that's just a deep-rooted conditioning that comes with colonization, racism. It just is what it is. I don't know how though you could hate something that you come from. That's like hating vanilla and it comes from a black bean. Do you know what I'm saying? It's like, would you stop eating vanilla altogether because you knew it came from a black bean? Would you no longer eat vanilla ice cream? Would you no longer put vanilla extract in your cakes? You would just completely repudiate vanilla if you found out it came from a black bean? It's kind of like that. You know what I'm saying? If you mix chocolate and vanilla together, what color are you going to get? You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of like that. It's interesting. It is quite interesting nonetheless. So I'm going to end the conversation there. I hope, let me see what people are saying in the comments. I'm sorry, y'all, that I didn't, hola, from Colombia. Hi, Omar. Giuseppe De Vicio. Oh, you sound like you're Italian. Your message is retracted. Why did you retract your message? Because I didn't see it in enough time? Okay, it's okay. Hello, hi. Hello, beautiful Empress. Aw, hi, thank you. Hi. Am I single? Single as a Pringle. I sure am. And what's crazy is that people keep trying to make me be married, and I don't like it. Like my dad today, I spoke to my dad, and I didn't speak to him. He texted me, right? And he was like, yeah, because you're still married or whatever. And I was like, no, I'm not. I was like, why are you saying that? It's almost like he's saying it to get under my skin or something. I have my divorce decree, boo. And didn't I post it online? I think I like posted a partial bit of my divorce decree. And I literally put in the writing area, I am not married. I am not married. I am not married. Because I felt like I had to keep repeating it because for some reason, people keep trying to make me still be married or keep trying to tie me to my past. And I don't like that shit. Like, I don't like, stop trying to tie me to somebody that I'm no longer tied to. Stop trying to make me be like, stop. Just stop. All of y'all, stop it. Family, friend, whoever, stop it because you know it's not true. I don't know why y'all keep pushing that rhetoric. I don't know why y'all keep acting like y'all. It's like y'all are in cahoots with each other. I swear. It's like my family, like my dad, my mom, my brother, or whatever. It's like they're in cahoots with the ex and the ex's family. Like they got something going on, whether it be court-wise, money-wise. It's just something going on between them. It's something going on between them. And it's really strange. And they keep trying to tie me to the ex. And I'm just like, stop doing that. Like, stop. I'm single. And, the hell? Anyway, so thank y'all for your comments. I hope, it seemed like y'all just came on here to... Anyway, thank y'all for your comments. I appreciate it. I thank you for your compliments. I appreciate all your compliments. It's really sweet. So I'm going to get off now, and this is going to upload for more people to watch it. And I hope I opened your eyes. I hope I gave you new eyes this evening. I hope I gave you new eyes. So I'll talk to y'all on the next live, okay?